Canada. Where is this thing? Hold on. Let's
Duh.
get through the technical difficulties and arrive. Oh, we're here. All right. Welcome everybody to the BNT Sports Talk Show. I am here, T, and then to my right, left, wherever he is B. What's up, B? How you doing, man?
I'm hot as hell, man. We just got done playing a ton of softball. I'm I'm burnt, as you can see in my face. I look like a lobster.
yeah.
You may see a shade of like whiteness and then redness down here. So eventually I'll tan out weirdly. But man, I'm just exhausted. But happy to be here,
yeah,
man.
man.
Let's give a shout out to your son, man. I know you just guys got done
Oh yeah,
celebrating a
yeah.
birthday this
Yeah, my
weekend.
son, he turned 7 yesterday, so he had a big old birthday bash. A lot of kids,
Yeah.
trampoline park, jumping, running. So it was cool. Cake and pizza, the usual kid stuff. So it was a lot of fun,
Now
man.
let me ask you this: was fruit punch a part of the beverages at that spot?
Actually, believe it or not, it was lemonade and Sprite. There was
Mm,
no fruit punch to be seen, and that's a little weird. Usually, there's always some red
yeah.
drink floating around somewhere.
It
Why
never
is it called
fails.
fruit
Like
punch anyway? I don't know.
I guess that's the $1 million question,
That's
to say the
yes.
least. If someone wants to look it up and see why it's fruit
Chat,
punch,
tell us
let us
which
know here.
fruit is in fruit punch. Any name two. I have no idea. It's red. I mean the only red fruit I can think of is an apple, and it tastes nothing like that. So I'm a little
Don't forget
curious.
about strawberries.
Yeah,
Strawberries,
strawberries. I
cherries.
don't taste these strawberries when I drink fruit punch. I feel like it's just like the Dave Chappelle skit. I feel like red is its own flavor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Remember the it's just
yeah,
you remember the little the little barrel punches? They were like little plastic
yes.
barrels with the foil on top. They had a fruit punch too. I don't know when there was no actual fruit in it. It had no nutritional value. It
Hell
was
no.
just red food color, some corn syrup, and whatever else they were feeding us. All right, well, that was back in the '90s. Nowadays, everything is much more healthier, I guess. Whatever.
I guess if you want to call it
Yeah,
that.
smart in some places, dumb in others. Well, folks,
Yep.
we're happy to be with y'all on this Sunday evening. We want to jump into a pretty lively week of sports, mainly dealing with the NBA. And the moment that the Nuggets hoist up their trophy and announce themselves the winner of the Denver Team of the Decade Century Award, that then all of a sudden comes the free agency, trade talk, and everything else. So let's hop into it.
Just a chaos that ensued this
Chaos,
past week.
absolute
My
chaos,
gosh.
and some unexpected moves I didn't see coming for sure. And we'll kind of start there. And this is going to be your team, Beak, who um, had a little bit of a struggle within the playoffs and really even a larger struggle through the regular season. The Golden State Warriors, who made a play, surprisingly, for CP3, who we all thought was just going to be a waived player, who was just getting traded to the Wizards just for the crap of it and was going to get waived. No, no, no. CP3 is now a Warrior. And the trade, which I mean, the Wizards have been busy, man. They got rid of Bradley Beal last week. They traded away Kristaps Porzingis. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And as
Yep.
that trade expanded further, now it's included the Golden State Warriors, who are trading Jordan Poole to the Wizards for CP3 and something else. I don't remember what.
I think draft
Draft
picks.
picks. There you go, and some draft
Yeah,
picks.
we,
I
we
think a
got rid of
first round
us. I
was
think
it
we got
second or
rid of
first?
two second round
Two
draft
second
picks.
round draft picks. When did second round draft picks even become a part of? They've been a lot more important these
I,
past couple of years.
in the NFL and in the NBA, it's like everyone's trying to hold on to that first round draft
Yeah,
pick.
man. Well,
But if so,
well, in the NFL, you got 7 rounds. I mean, the
I
NBA,
mean
you
that's true
only got
too.
two.
Two.
But in any case, so the Warriors make this trade. It was surprising, and there's a lot of questions that come along with this. One is, and I'm going to kind of put these questions to you, B. Well, I mean, are they? First, I want to ask this question: are they making this trade for CP3 to be a part of their, a part of next year's run, or are they going to waive CP3 and this was just a move to get off of Jordan Poole's contract?
I actually think they're going to hold on to CP3 here because what was lacking the Warriors all year was a leader off the bench, a facilitator off the bench, and they were really hoping that Jordan Poole would be that guy. And when you watch the Warriors' second unit come out, there was no leadership there. That was a very young bench core, and you can't have guys like Curry and Thompson really trying to anchor that down. And DiVincenzo was an amazing player, and it's sad to even see him go. But let's be honest, he wasn't going to be the guy that was going to be the one to anchor that unit. Bringing CP3 here is going to have an impact on some of these young guys here. So I don't think it makes them a better team right now. They're still lacking some size to say the least. They need a legitimate center to help out Kevon Looney. The small lineups are just it's not what it used to be anymore. These guys aren't young anymore. So you kind of need a kid and go get yourself a big man. But I was I was not shocked that Jordan Poole got traded. I
Yeah.
was shocked about who they got
Yeah.
in exchange for that there. I think that was the bigger shock was that it was CP3.
Yeah, and I feel like so you feel like Chris Paul will come off the bench and not start with
You
alongside?
you can't start him. It would be Monte Ellis and Steph Curry 2.0 all over again. And the only difference is you're looking at two older guys there.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
you
see,
can't.
I kind of disagree. I think they should start him, and I think one of the reasons I think that they should start him alongside Curry is because of the very thing we saw against the Lakers. Curry was out there playing at the point guard position, getting there were some point games where he was assist man, shooting man. He was doing a lot. And it really took away from his capability of being able to play off the ball, which he's actually really, really good at. And Draymond Green used to be the guy that would kind of facilitate the offense where Curry could set some screens, pop open. And these last playoffs, the way they played really put a lot of pressure on him to just do everything. And I think
Yeah,
Chris Paul in this stage in his career he's not gonna average 20 something points. He's just gonna give you an open three, a jumper here and there. I don't think he's gonna come in and ruin it. I really think he can play a pure point guard role beside Curry, Klay Thompson, and since he's still a threat to score, it can help open their offense up a little bit more because you saw what happened whenever teams really just pushed their defenses to the perimeter and really just said, okay, Warriors, we'll live with anything else but you shooting a three. And I think Chris Paul can help break down a defense because he can at least get into the mid range easily and he can knock down open shots. He's good off of pick and rolls. Obviously, he's a veteran point guard, and I think he's really I think he would really help you guys throughout the regular season.
that's going to be the big question: is how much are you going to play him during the regular season? Because in all honesty, you can't ask for 30 plus minutes a game from him.
No,
You can't
well,
really ask for 30 minutes a game from a lot of these guys. You got to really preserve yourself to make a playoff run, especially at the age that they're at. And it's crazy to say that 35, 36 is a slow age for an
yeah,
NBA player. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? They would
yeah,
run circles around most of us in a pickup gym,
of
to
course.
to say the least. I honestly think Chris Paul should come off the bench at least to start the season, and to get him into that rhythm there. Um, for me that's too small of a lineup to start a game with, And Kevon Looney's earned that starting five center position. I will give him that. Like he's earned the right to be a starter here, and to ask him to come off the bench when he's been a starter for the last 3 years, I don't see that. I don't see that being possible to say. But what a lot of people should understand is that Steph Curry and Chris Paul actually have a really good relationship with each other. They used to work out a lot during the offseason. They created their own camps as well, if I believe, for point guards through that as well. So they've had the opportunity to really work with each other here. Now it's coming in for resting. You're not really worried about where the scoring is coming from because Chris Paul can still get his own.
Yeah,
He's got a great mid range game there, and he'll knock down an occasional open 3 pointer here and there. But it's the playmaking. Who I'm really excited to see kind of flourish in this, and hopefully, and who knows if he stays, is Jonathan Kaminga. Because if he comes off the bench with Chris Paul and they get involved in that pick and roll game, look how well DeAndre Jordan did in that pick and roll.
Yeah.
Look how well Chris Aiden, DeAndre Aiden
DeAndre
also
Ayton, yeah.
was in that pick and roll.
Yeah, well,
That's gonna help out a lot for these guys getting to keep that ball moving.
yeah, any big that plays with Chris Paul automatically should be better. I mean, that's generally how it goes. Except for well, DeAndre Ayton, I don't know what his problem is, but in any case, I think
Yeah.
I think it is a good move. I don't think it solves some of the problems that the Warriors had because size was a huge issue, as you've already mentioned.
Yeah.
My thought process is this: I feel like Jordan Poole's lack of production really dwindled his value on the market. He should have been worth a lot more than just CP3. I thought trading Jordan Poole and a draft pick would help pull a big or a rotational player into the fold. Someone
Yeah.
that they can start maybe or possibly be a starting level center, or something that they can put in that or help solidify that starting lineup, um, so that they can sort of get a new view on their season or a new view on how they're doing things because last year it just wasn't it. So I was a little surprised by that, but given the shortage of rotational players that they had throughout the season, I certainly understand the wanting to get a veteran in there because Warrior teams of the past had veterans much like Chris Paul coming off the bench. Rather it have been Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, who's so old he can't even play anymore.
Yeah.
David West was another big name later in his career who helped the Warriors out off the bench. So the Warriors had Leandro Barbosa. The Warriors have had guys like that. So I think
Yeah.
this is sort of them going back to the old school playbook and kind of putting a veteran to maybe help lead that second unit and many times in the past that second unit would actually make the lead bigger back in the day.
Exactly. That was a big thing, and the Warriors never gained leads when their core left the court. They they were getting down again, you know.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
not saying the Warriors had a lot of games where their first quarter was just atrocious to say the least, but your second unit has to either stop or keep it within a striking distance for your guys to get back into the game, or like you said, grow a lead. The Warriors have entered games with leads and absolutely lost them with that second unit. It was killer for them. So
yeah,
it, I this Chris Paul trade is hopefully if he sticks, he sticks. Who knows what's going to happen
yeah.
because we still have a lot of things
Yeah, he's only one
that are
year.
left unsaid.
He's old. So you may got 1 year, 2 years maybe. I don't know if Chris Paul plays too much farther beyond that. So we'll see. We'll see.
This takes a lot of pressure off of Curry.
Yeah,
This will take that much pressure off, and who knows? I think that starting that death lineup that we've been missing all this time, this may be a very big key for them because now Curry doesn't have to worry about handling the ball.
yeah,
Now someone's got to worry about him getting around.
yeah,
Chris Paul's going to probably facilitate most of the time there.
yep.
Um, but let me ask you this, given in light what happened, because Chris Paul don't take shit from no one. Let's put it like that.
No, never
Um,
has.
how many arguments are him and Draymond going to be getting
Oh
into
my god.
practice?
Oh man. I think hopefully Chris Paul is in a place to where he's humble and he's ready to kind of be in a position to help win a championship because obviously he has not been able to do that. I do think there will be some chippiness, but whenever you have two veterans being chippy, it's because both of them are asking more from each other. Versus
Yes.
the whole Jordan Poole situation was a guy who's pretty much sulking, who's moaning and who's he drops his head because he missed shots, he stops playing defense. The things that really piss veterans off. I think if CP's problem with the guys he played with, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry.
Rather, I lost there. He
No,
pulled
no.
his mic out, folks. Stop the show. But I think the issue that CP3 had with guys like DeAndre Ayton, Blake Griffin, in some ways DeAndre Jordan as well, is that he really pushes guys hard. He wants guys to be in the right place, he's the point guard. He wants them to be at the right place, the right time. Guys need to be where they should be, when they should be, that kind of thing. That's just how he is. So I think him and Draymond will be on the same accord in that way, because I feel like both of them are, again, it's not, he's just not just a butt. He's not just being an ass just because he's doing it, because he wants things to go the way that they should. So it's not an effort thing. So I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and him coming to a team with a lot of veterans to say
Yeah.
of that caliber, he's not going to really have to worry much about these guys wanting to, have the work ethic, to say the least. Um, Coming to a group that's got 4 championships and a ton of playoff experience, so they know what it's going to take and what they need to do here to get through the regular season, to make sure that they're ready for the postseason there. So, like you said, him not having to really worry about young teams, because let's look at it. When he was with the Clippers, that was a young team with what they had going. When
Yeah.
he joined Phoenix, that was a young team as well.
Yeah, it
So
was.
now he's coming to a team that's got a good starting core veteranship that doesn't have to really worry about someone being out of position and getting on him about it. You saw when he yelled at DeAndre Jordan
Oh yeah.
um, for not laying up the ball under his home basket. Like, you're not gonna have that issue with Kevon Looney. Let's
Right.
just put it like
Right.
that. That issue's not going to come. It's the intelligence, and I'm not calling all NBA players stupid. It's just that intelligent level in that offense is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
He's not going to really have to worry but struggle about all of that there.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll see how it works out. Any parting words for Jordan Poole out the door?
Look,
Uh,
he had his opportunity.
yeah.
You and I both know that contract was earned. He earned that contract, but you can't take that forward of a step just to take it back again here. You know, I I wish him the best. Hopefully he shows out in Washington. He's going to have that
Oh, he'll
opportunity
definitely have the
to
opportunity.
really blossom,
Yeah.
because that group is rebuilding.
Yeah.
They let it known that we're getting rid of everyone.
Yeah.
We'll take on who we can get, and we'll take on contracts as well. So good luck to Jordan Poole. Um, we ain't worried about drowning in his pool parties no more. Ice Spice can now go to Washington and enjoy her time out there with him, dropping five
No.
hundred thousand dollars.
That was,
Um,
I'm sure that was just a one time thing. I don't think they're in any type
who
of real
knows?
relationship. But let's just say that there will be some, some much richer young ladies out there in Washington. That's for Washington D.C. That's for sure. With Jordan Poole joining the team, because he's gonna
Before we,
be throwing dollars. So,
100%.
and it's Jordan. Jordan Poole. The thing with him, I don't think he was ready for the contract, and I think that's what killed him. I think he was a player that was working up to something, and he didn't
Hmm.
realize what the next level was and what it took to be an all-star player. And he once he got that money, you started to see him. He started retract. He started going backwards a little bit. He's starting to miss shots. He starts sulking. He's already a pretty confident guy. But unfortunately, you got to make sure you're in the gym working as hard as you possibly can to develop your game to that next level. And I felt like he thought he was just going to be able to do what he did last year, and it didn't work out.
Exactly. And look, it's not like he didn't have someone to grow off of. You had one of this, a top two point guard of all time at your disposal,
Right.
you know, and he didn't want to learn from any of that there. I mean, look, he got Curry kicked out of the game for taking a bad shot. Don't forget about that, people.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me shed some light. The Warriors are still not a team that's far away from a championship. They are right there still. They're still one of the top lineups with their starting five on the court. So not like they're rebuilding. They just look. Are you going to choose Draymond or Jordan Poole to help get you to a championship? Who would you rather keep in that situation?
Right. Right. And just real quick, we got Mama Lay dropping in. Hi, boys. What's up? How you doing,
Hey,
Mama?
what's up, mom?
Yeah, man. So we'll keep it on Warriors for a little bit. Also want to talk about uh, what other things do the Warriors need to do? I mean, do you foresee them pulling off some other trades to try to pull some other players on that to kind of fill out the remainder of that roster, especially coming off the bench, with guys like trading guys like Kaminga or Moody, or really just making any move.
I think Kaminga may be the one to keep a name out for. I think Moody is more the polished player now. You saw that in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Um, he's starting to become a well-rounded and a smart basketball player too. He understood his role, and like I said, Moody's best quote was, "I didn't come to the NBA to start. I came to learn, to understand the game." Because if he wanted to start, he'd have stayed in Arkansas all that time there. So you can
yeah.
see where he's trying to develop. Where Kaminga's got that raw talent, but it's what you learn from that. So I think Kaminga's name is probably the next one that's going to be on the list there. They've got to go get a big man. It has to be done because a lot of games they got killed on the boards there because they're relying too much on the jump shooting there.
Yeah.
So I think they got to get Kevon Looney a little bit of help. They got to get him some support there to be an anchor off the bench. So I think you'll maybe hear Kaminga's name in there for a big man. And big men are easy to find now because no one wants them in the league.
Well, there aren't
So
that many good ones available, to be quite honest with you. I mean, Brooke Lopez is the top. That just to kind of give you where we're at right now. Brooke Lopez is the top center free agent right now.
yeah,
Like, he's it. You know what I mean? It's him and Mason Plumlee. So I mean, there
and
isn't a
that's
lot
not.
out
And
there.
Muzzin Plumlee's not really saying a whole lot, like you said. But
There's not a lot
again,
there.
the Warriors don't have the money right now, right? So
Yeah,
that's
they don't.
understandable. So now you have to part ways with something
Yeah.
to keep a championship alive. And I think Kaminga is going to be your next valuable asset to bring in a guy like Brooke Lopez because you're going to need it. I would love to keep Kaminga in that, like I said, in that pick and roll game with Chris Paul would be amazing. But if we could find help for Kaminga, or not for Kaminga, but for Kevon Looney, I, the Warriors are not afraid to let young talent go
Yeah.
and say good luck in the future. So don't be shocked if something like this takes place where Kaminga's name gets involved here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And with so many question marks around free agency, when you start to see big names moving, that means all the other next tier type players are going to become available. So
Mm-hmm.
if we start to see big names move into different cities, then that remaining roster might get gutted, and that's where you might see the Warriors kind of sneak in and say, "Oh well, let me see if I can get after this guy or that guy." But ultimately, you guys need a large. It doesn't even have to be a center. It could be a power forward. You guys just need somebody that has some versatility and can rebound the basketball. So,
You know who I wouldn't even be mad about going back out to get? You'll probably get his ass for cheap. Was JaVale McGee.
oh well, JaVale's on. He's been riding the pine, making $5 million a year for about two
But that's
years
what I'm
now.
saying though. For $5 million a year,
Yeah, yeah, he's getting
and
paid.
he's been in this organization, and he's not a bad player anymore. I'll give him that. He
Yeah,
learned a lot when he came to Golden State. So why not bring him back for that cheap vet minimum?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all plausible. We'll see what happens and see how they go through that. Um, so last thing on the Warriors, Draymond opts out of his contract. I don't, when I first saw this, and we've been talking about this, Draymond has literally, I don't want to say zero value, but has very little value to any other team other than the Warriors, in my
Yep.
opinion. Now,
Yep.
don't get me wrong, he's a great defensive player and he can help another team be better. But at his size, he has to be in the right situation, especially on the offensive end of the wall, because let's just keep it 100. His offensive game development has been he hasn't developed an offensive game. That's all you got to know. His best move is the fake dribble handoff with
And the
him
dunk.
turning and going to the
Yeah.
point dunk. That's his best offensive move. So I mean, that's why I believe he's going to end up going back to the Warriors on a little bit more of a team friendly deal with on the longer term contract. So what are your thoughts on that?
So he's got to be able to push his ego to the side.
Yeah,
And look, he's made a ton of money in this league now. Now you're just trying to count championships, right?
yeah,
Don't leave a good situation. You're here already. You're not going to get anything better out there.
right.
You know what I'm saying? You're gonna sit there and go, hey, this is my best chance right now to ride off in that sunset, to get one or maybe even two. There's talks of them restructuring Clay and Draymond's contract to match Curry's
Mm-hmm.
to finish for all of them to ride the sunset out together.
Yeah,
They don't want this crew going to go play for any other team. So if Draymond was smart, take the restructured contracts, save the team a little money so they can also pay Klay Thompson and go get a couple of simple vets. You know what I'm saying? So you're not worth a max contract. In my honest opinion, I probably wouldn't even give Curry a max contract at this time. You're not going to give Klay a max contract.
Yeah.
Save the money. Go restructure the contract. $80 million for 3 years. You mean to tell me that's not enough for you for
Yeah.
all the money you've already made?
Yeah,
Like,
you're older, bro. I mean, this is the end
yeah.
of your career, and this is that last opportunity to make top end money before you get into those, Chris Paul years, we'll call them. Where where you where that last contract goes away. Now you're on vet minimums for the rest of your career.
Let me ask you this, and I won't look at it from a my side perspective, but is there another team where he would have the same success at with a different set of players?
Yeah, so there's only one team. If he went to the Phoenix Suns with the group that they have now, he would have the same success. I think that's the only team I can think of.
I don't think him and Kevin Durant are playing together anymore.
I know, but I'm just saying, like the way that team is structured, they're all jump shooters, and they're gonna need somebody to do all the dirty work. I mean, and Draymond fits that bill. I don't know if any other team, like people keep talking about the Lakers. We don't have a lot of shooting. We try to, but we don't. And he's just not gonna. It's gonna be kind of a clunky fit with him and AD. AD likes to be in the. AD's weird because AD likes to be next to the basket. But he also doesn't like to be too close to the basket. He likes to be right around the dotted line. That's kind of where he likes to be. Dotted line and the baseline. And so he's not a bruiser. He's not a guy that's going to be banging folks and getting in there all the time. And I just feel like it'll be a little clunky trying to run screens with LeBron and him and AD here. And I'm sure they could figure it out. They're professionals. But I just don't think the Lakers need to get any older. The Lakers need to continue to get younger because LeBron's contract and AD's contract both end in the same year. And then from there you can make a decision. I don't want to pay Draymond for 3 more years. It doesn't make any sense for the Lakers timeline.
No, not at all. So you heard it first from us, Draymond. Don't be stupid.
Yeah,
that's all we're gonna tell you.
Stay home.
And don't punch Chris Paul either. Like,
that fight ain't going down like that, man. Chris Paul is pretty tough. I mean, he's not.
Remember when Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo went to throwing punches at each other?
That's right. That's right. Those guys hate each other. Those guys hate each other.
That was a good fight. That was a good one. I enjoyed that one.
One of the better NBA fights. Rondo with the phantom spit, and then Chris Paul with the I think he caught him with the left or right, but they went after it. I think Rondo caught him pretty good actually. So
Rondo caught him with the first punch, and then Chris Paul hit him with the second one.
Yep.
It was a good fight. I'll give him that.
It's the first time I've seen punches landed on faces in an NBA fight in years.
But yeah, normally there's a lot of swing and misses going on here, and then a pile up. That's all it is.
Exactly. So we're gonna jump into some other things around the league as well. And forgive us, folks, this will be kind of an NBA heavy show, but around the league there were some other trades that happened that some were curious to say the least. The first is Kristaps Porzingis to the Celtics. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this one because I really don't feel like the Boston Celtics issue was scoring. I felt like their issue was coaching. And the fact that they could not find a way to be successful on the defensive end of the ball consistently. So not only did the Celtics get Kristaps Porzingis, but they gave up Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies in order to do so. So the previous trade did not involve Marcus Smart. There was a trade in place for the Celtics to receive Kristaps Porzingis. And I believe, I don't remember what they were trading away. I got to be honest with you, but it was not Marcus Smart. It was a trade between them.
Wasn't it Malcolm Brogdon?
Malcolm Brogdon, yes. Malcolm Brogdon to the Clippers, and then CP3 to the Wizards, along with some other stuff. And that made a little bit, I mean, I don't know if that even made that much sense, to be quite honest with you. But in any case, getting rid of the former Defensive Player of the Year, and bring in Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, I don't know if it makes them a better team. I will say Kristaps is definitely a step up from what Horford played like last season, especially in the playoffs. But I don't know if that pushes them over the top as a championship team. I don't know. What do you think about that, B?
It's interesting because you make the comparison to Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis. Al Horford didn't demand the ball. Like he
Yeah,
didn't need the ball.
right.
Kristaps wants the ball.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he wants the offense to evolve around him. That's not going to work in Boston because you know why? There's two guys there called Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum
yeah.
that offense runs around. So it's interesting that they made this move for a guy who wants to be ball dominant when you've already got two guys, and it shows you what the Celtics think about the the Defensive Player of the Year award. They're
Yeah.
like, go be somewhere else. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this trade was just interesting. I was like, what did he do to like really
Well, he had a
to
good
really pop
season.
off?
He had a
I'd
good
say we had a
season with the
decent
Wizards,
season.
but he
Yeah.
was playing for the Wizards. And sometimes when you play on bad teams, of course your stats look a lot better. Ask Kevin Love, who was pretty much a Hall of Famer before he went to Cleveland.
Ask James Wiseman.
Yeah. So I think it does make their offense a little bit more potent if that's what the point is. If they're going to go away from being a grindy defensive team and into being more of a offensive juggernaut, I mean, maybe that's where they're going with it. But it doesn't solve the problem of Jaylen Brown dribbling the ball off his shoe every other
Yeah.
possession. It doesn't solve the problem of having a consistent point guard presence to help facilitate the ball between Tatum and Brown from time to time. And I don't know if so I'm not sure on this one. Well, I got to wait and see. Kristaps is a great talent. Don't get me wrong. The unicorn, he didn't live up to the hype. Let's just be clear. Whenever he went to New York, but he's more than capable of knocking down open threes. He can rebound, but it's not necessarily a strong point for him. He can block shots, but again, it's not necessarily a strong point. He kind of has learned to live around the perimeter, and
Well,
that's kind of what you're getting from him.
he's like the James Harden of big men. He's just looking to score and wants nothing to do with the defensive end. But he's not a good defensive ball player. Let's put it like that. Like
He's tall.
you're not. He's tall, but for some reason he's like, I must live from 3-point line.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, stick your ass in the paint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what Boston has prided themselves on their defense.
Yeah.
And for them to get rid of their defensive player of the year to go more offensive heavy, I get it. The league's changing where 130 is like scoring 110, but the Celtics were never scoring 130 a game.
Yeah.
They were never getting to that point. So why change that? It blows my mind to say the least. But in contrary to that, T, with Marcus Smart going to the Celtics, what was your thoughts on that?
Oh my God! Really. I mean, the Grizzlies. I mean, I'm sure folks are familiar with the Grizzlies. They hang their hat on defense. They're a super tough team, especially at the guard, the wing. The JJJ obviously was Defensive Player of the Year. You're gonna trade. They pretty much got rid of Dylan Brooks and brought in Marcus Smart. They took it. That's like taking a steroid injection, sticking it into Dylan, and pumping him up to the Defensive Player of the Year. In my book, the Grizzlies upgraded by far. Like they filled the position they had to fill because they lost a player that was a critical. That was maybe I was not say critical, but a rotational piece. And now you have a pretty staunch defensive lineup. I don't know when Jaws. Well, do we do Jaws coming back later around Christmas? But
in 25 games, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got guys out there who can flat out defend, and I think Marcus Smart, with his attitude, the way he plays, will fit in perfectly with the Grizzlies. Yeah,
we talked about that veteran leadership, right?
That's
Memphis was
yeah.
lacking so much, and they're gonna get that with. They have the last two Defensive Player of the Years on their team now.
Yeah,
yeah. So he adds that character for them now.
Right.
I still could give two craps less about that team, but could you imagine Dylan Brooks still on the Grizzlies and him and Marcus Smart being in training camp together?
They'll probably
2.0.
They'll probably flop off each other and break both their ankles, flopping so hard.
The flopping those two would have been unreal.
Yeah, there would have been braids everywhere. But anyway.
I think it's a good. I think it's good for them. I
Yeah,
think
it's a good
honestly, it's
pickup.
good for the Grizzlies to pick up another defensive presence. It makes them a little more of a challenge to say the least when it comes to another team's offense there. But we'll. Like I said, I could give two craps less, but good on them for nabbing a defensive player of the year.
Yeah, I hope they continue to lose. But in any
Yeah,
case,
same here.
let's move on to the first pick in the draft, who was Wimbenyama. Wimbenyama. I gotta get this right. I got Giannis Antetokounmpo right. I gotta get Wimbenyama right.
But look how long it took all of us to get Antetokounmpo's name
Dude,
right.
I still have to ask you about Tua's last name for the Miami Dolphins. I still can't pronounce it right. So but we're doing our best. We're not going to disrespect people, but give us some time. So the Spurs get Wembanyama. They still got they still got Pop there. The kid obviously is extremely talented for a guy his size, but you know how I am about rookies, dude. I just you remember Zion, right? He was also
Who?
the heir apparent. Zion Williamson, remember? Heir
No.
apparent, greatest prospect. Oh, the athleticism, guys drooling on television on ESPN about how great Zion. They were saying this guy was going to be a Hall of Famer before he even stepped foot on an NBA floor. Now he's Slimer from the
That's
Ghostbusters. I
dude.
mean,
Well,
he's just completely, he's rounded out, just not in the way you thought he would. And
I
I
know you
just,
want to. I know we're going to talk about Wembayama,
yeah.
but before we do that, we didn't even get a chance to touch on it. You know the chick that Zion slept with, literally
Which one,
tweeted
man?
if he is
Which one?
he is not released by the Pelicans, she's going to release the sex tape between her and Zion
Oh my! I knew
Williamson.
that was coming.
Bro, she even got his name tattooed on her face.
What?
Dude, I can't make it up. Look
The
it up when you get the
Let this be a
chance.
lesson to everyone. Be careful of who you keep company with, because there's
Yes.
some crazies out there, man. You gotta be careful, especially if you're a $1 million NBA player. This guy is just dumb. I don't know how else to say it. I'm trying to be nice about this, folks, but Zion has dug himself quite a hole, and he may be on the trade block if more stuff starts to come out about him. I hate to say it. Um,
Yep. But
so
anyways, back to
back to
the draft
Wimbenyama.
picks.
Sorry. Not that Wimbenyama, he didn't do anything. So this guy, I think he's going to be a good player. Big guys like that scare me with injuries. I always think about knees and ankles with guys who are so tall and so thin. So I'm hoping he does what Giannis did and kind of gets in the weight room, and really he doesn't have to get bigger necessarily, but needs to be stronger. The NBA is a much stronger group of athletes than what he was playing against in France. And that's the first thing. He's gonna get guys that are 6'8", 6'9", playing at the pretty much from the guard position up to the four. PG 6'7". You've got guys out there that can ball and are big and are athletic, and they're going to be going right into his chest. And once they hit him in the chest, if he doesn't have the strength to stay in there, he's going to go flying backwards. So I just think he's going to be pretty good. I think he'll be good. He'll be good offensively. And he'll have to continue to improve his game. But in the league, he's going to be asked to do a lot more than just score as a big. He's going to have to be a good rebounder. He's going to have to block out. He's going to have to be good at setting screens. There's a lot that's going to be asked of him to do. And to be honest, he couldn't be on a better team to learn how to do that. I mean, the big
Yeah.
men that have gone through the Spurs, including David Robinson and mainly David Robinson and Tim Duncan, even Jakob Portal, whatever his name is. This was a very good player under Pop. So I think he's in the right place, man. I think he's going to turn out to be a good, hopefully level-headed player. And but I don't know. I'm not going to proclaim this guy to be, Hall of Fame, best prospect ever, all that type of garbage. I don't know.
Look, for those, just watch his highlights. It is very worthy of watching. He's going to have a lot of pressure mounted. It's not the same pressure as what LeBron James went through, but this is a
No.
lot of pressure that an international player is going to start feeling here. I think he is the most touted international player this league has gotten, I think, since
Joel Embiid, maybe.
You
Not
know
even
what?
not even
Not even
Embiid.
that, because
Yeah.
he didn't. Embiid didn't get the same.
No, he didn't.
Um, honestly, I would say Yao Ming.
Yeah.
Yao
Oh
Ming
yeah.
first
Yeah. I
came
mean.
over from the Rockets from China.
Yeah.
The league was all over that, and it's the same here, and it just happened to blossom more because of the social media outlets that we have. But is it not shocking enough that the Spurs find their way to get some generational talent? Tim Duncan, David
Yeah.
Robinson,
Yeah. Kawhi
you know what
Leonard.
I'm saying? Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, they
Like,
well, you have to also keep in mind that they've also done very well at drafting international players too. I mean, they've had Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, to name a couple. So didn't they draft Leandro Barbosa to? Did they
and
draft him?
Barbosa.
Yeah, they did.
But who was that guy? Diao? Something Diao or something like that.
Yeah, who are you talking about?
He was also an international player as
Oh,
well. But the main, would you say that the main, a lot of them were from the France national
that's true.
team there,
Yeah, you talking about
and so there's
Boris
that deep
Diaw.
connection.
Yeah,
Yeah, Boris Diaw. Thank
yeah.
you. So there's a deep connection between France and the Spurs, to say the least, because
Right,
of like Tony Parker. Just happens to be when Wembanyama's from France, and
right.
what team does he end up on?
On the Spurs.
On the Spurs.
Wow.
But I'm looking forward to seeing him. Him, Czech Holmgren, who we didn't get to see because he hurt himself in the pro am. You know,
OKC. Yeah.
there's going to be this season with the young talent that's around the league. For some reason it gets better every time.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but he's going to have to carry the weight of an organization
Yeah.
on his shoulders, and that's going to be big for him, because playing international is one thing. Every international player doesn't want to stay. They want to come over to the NBA.
It's not
And
the
now
same
you're
level.
carrying
Yeah.
all of that weight. And this is a different beast here.
Yeah. You're going to be playing in the West against the top teams, and the guys coming at you full force are not going to be guys from France. It's going to be LeBron James. It's going to be Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant.
I wonder how, dude, that's going to be a fun matchup between him and Kevin Durant. The skinniest dudes on the court who, when they turn sideways, you don't see them. That's going to be a fun matchup, man. That'd be something worth watching. And Wembanyama even said it, that one guy he's looking forward to playing in the league was Kevin Durant. So that's going to be fun. Those are going to be some good matchups.
Yeah, well, we'll see, man. We'll see. So let's move on to a couple of other news I want to get into as far as things that could change the perspective of the league while we're talking about it. And one is there's a rumor going around about the good old Clippers, my favorite team, shopping Paul George in an attempt to try to get something for him. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to hate on the Clippers. That's one. And I feel like this whole, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, load management, this thing is getting really old. And the only person that's excited about this is Billy Crystal and their owner. Outside of that, the Clippers they've been singing the same tune for the past 3 years, where they finally get into contention only to have one of their star players get hurt. This year it was both of them, if I remember correctly. First, It was Paul George, who hurt himself late in the season. Then it was Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs, who Kawhi also got injured in the playoffs in the previous year. And it's starting to look like this thing is not going to work. The Clippers have to make a change, and I think they're quietly trying to get themselves out of those two contracts, because those two contracts between Paul George and Kawhi are up next year. And they really need to make a choice. Those guys have player options on on the last year of a basically 2-in-1 deal, and I think they need to start moving in a different direction. They really think they're the Lakers, but they're not. And the fact they think they could just drop stars into Clipperland and think that they're going to somehow win a championship, I think is fool's gold. I just don't see it with the team. I don't know what else they're going to do or how they're going to. There's no. Once Paul George and Kawhi, whoever one of them leaves, both of them are at some point, are gone or cannot stay healthy. They're not going to be able to convince that many other players to come and play for the Clippers.
Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Paul George,
Oh, get out of here, man.
Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green.
You're not. You have to trade something to get Paul George, man. You're not just getting him for free. What are you trading?
Chris Paul.
Oh my God. Never mind. Man,
Look,
come on, man. You got to give up Wiggins. You got to
listen,
give up draft picks. You're gonna have to give up stuff, man.
Kaminga. Listen, this is all I'm gonna say. They wanted a reunion with Chris Paul in LA, right? So you got to find a way to make it happen. But you can't make it happen with those two players on the books as well.
Yeah.
So something's got to give. And if Paul George's name is out there and the Warriors are holding on to Chris Paul, you got to
Yeah, but they can't. They
thought.
can't trade him yet. The only way, because they just traded for, the only way they can trade him is if they make a deal a deal in the same trade they're in right now that includes the Clippers, okay? And the Clippers would have to be a part of it, making it like a 4 or 5 team. I don't even know how many teams are in on this damn deal now with the Wizards, but they would have to then flip Chris Paul to the Clippers, who originally, they had some interest in him, and
I bet you they still
yeah,
do.
I'm sure they do. And then on top of that, they'd have to send him, probably Andrew Wiggins, maybe Kaminga, for Paul George in return. I mean, and maybe a draft pick. I don't see it. That's the only way, because once we get past July 1st, the trades are finalized.
Yes,
and then they can't trade them until the trade deadline in February, or until December or whatever it is.
We still got a whole week of chaos to have happen.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So don't be shocked.
That'd be crazy, man.
Don't be shocked. So is Patrick Baldwin? I don't think Patrick Baldwin was involved in the trade for Chris Paul.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I can't recall if he was or not. But all I'm gonna say is, hey, you want another second round pick? Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga, and Chris Baldwin, or Patrick Baldwin Jr.
They don't want that guy. Clippers don't want. They want players that can play right now. So, yeah,
Chris Paul can play right
Chris
now.
Paul, yes.
So can Kuminga.
Yes. But I don't know. I don't see the Clippers doing that, because Chris Paul and Kawhi Leonard, neither one of them can stay healthy. They might as well go ahead and pitch a tent and and just chill at the NBA draft board at that point, because I don't think that doesn't make any sense. It's just not a healthy team. That team is not making it through a regular season at all. Not at all.
I'm just saying, just don't be shocked if something wild happens in the next.
I mean, it could, man. You're right, but I doubt it. That's a little wish. You're wishing. You're wishing hard, man.
Just like when we pick up Giannis Antetokounmpo after this year.
Okay, man, that's enough. You're not getting Giannis. You're not getting Giannis. Stop it. Jeez.
Watch it.
Jeez, the guys are not getting Giannis. All right. So moving on to another big name, who we talk about this guy every single year, and we get the same question over and over again every time. Is he staying or is he going? And that is none other than Dame. It's Dame time, Lillard, and it might be time for him to leave Portland. Obviously, Portland is going nowhere. They've been going nowhere for the past 2.5 years, I'd say 3 years or whatever. They've tried to add pieces around, Dame to make it work. They traded away C.J. McCollum. They brought in Jeremy Grant. They've tried to put pieces in there. And it just has not worked out. It has not happened. And I'm really starting to think that, Dame is holding on because of something he said about, wanting to be there for Portland and yada, yada, yada. But I feel like we've seen this play out before. Kevin Garnett waited until the final 3 years of his career to leave Minnesota to win one championship. He should have left a lot earlier. And I think Dame should take note of that. He shouldn't feel bad about demanding a trade, because the bottom line is, the Blazers picked number 3. They're looking to the future. They're not looking to right now.
Yeah, and they made it very clear with their pick that we're rebuilding. That's a clear indication,
right?
Honestly, Dame Lillard, go to Miami. That's the best fit for you right now. To be alongside with Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, that young core that really showed a lot of life.
Yeah.
In that playoff run, and that could be a big 3 for Miami.
Yeah.
Again, Jimmy Butler doesn't have to handle the ball anymore once you bring in a guy like Damian Lillard.
All right.
So you part ways with it, man. Just let it go. look, Portland's gonna love him forever for everything that he's done for that organization, for that city. That's not gonna go undone. But at some point, dude, you gotta let bygones be bygones. You gotta let these ties go because he needs a championship.
Yeah.
If there was one guy in the league that I could say, hey, he needs a ring, and that's Damian Lillard, man.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of memorable moments in in the NBA, and so I like to see him go to the best place that he's gonna have to win a ring, and it's not Golden State, unfortunately, but I think Miami is the best fit for him over there.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think if there is a trade on the table, they're the one team that has enough assets to go and get them, and still
Yeah,
field a team that's going to be competitive. So, I would definitely like to see him in Miami and compete in the East. I think it would be fun. I mean, it makes it more interesting, right? The Miami Heat with Dame Lillard against the Celtics and Tatum, or against 76ers with Embiid and possibly Harden. Uh, you know, I don't want I just hate to see someone who has generational talent like that remain in a situation with an organization that's not just not going to get there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's not working. Hell, even Barkley got up and left the Sixers at some point. You have to like embrace that next step in life. The guy's 30. What's he on? 32 now. I mean,
Yep.
it's time to make that change. You only got maybe 4 more years in the league at most. And so the best thing you could do for yourself is make sure each one of those years you're competing for a championship, and Portland hasn't been doing that.
But and here's you know what, and Miami's got the best trade offer for that as well. They got guys like Caleb Martin,
Yeah,
um,
Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero, Kyle
Yeah,
Lowry. Those are quality pieces to give up to get a guy like Damian
yeah,
Lillard. You know, they're not going to have to worry about draft picks. They can hold on to those. But the Heat have enough assets, like you said, to sit there and go, we don't have to really hurt ourselves for the long
yeah.
run. We have some pieces that we're able to get away with because they still have some good players to look forward to as well. But they can keep at least most of that core together and add this monster of a piece to that backcourt.
Right, exactly, exactly. So I'm hoping he does demand a trade, man. I'm hoping he doesn't wait around and go into the season playing with next to the number 3 overall draft pick. I mean, they're going young, and I think he's got to get out of there. And then if
Mm-hmm.
Dame makes a move, like I mentioned earlier, a guy like Jeremy Grant would fit very well in a Warriors uniform. So
Oh, 100%. I think
those are the
so.
type of players that, as I mentioned earlier, can kind of fall free whenever big moves are starting to be made. But Dame's way too talented
Mm-hmm.
to not be playing in the playoffs. If he fielded a good team this year, this year was up for grabs. Denver obviously,
Oh, 100%.
Denver was the best team. I'm not taking that away from them, but hell, the Lakers, we put together a team the last 2 months of the season and went to the Western Conference Finals. And so the Warriors decided to play the last month of the season and made it to the semis.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I mean there was a clear opportunity for or opportunity to compete, but it's just the team that Portland was throwing out there just wasn't doing enough. So Dame,
Well,
please just tell him just you know say your goodbyes, be cordial about it, and just
mhm.
go on to the next team, man.
They retired Barkley's number in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
And he left the organization to go play for two different teams after
yeah,
that. But let's face it, you weren't going to be able to win in the West, mainly due to the Warriors. But the West is really loaded, and unless your team is not matching what these other West teams are doing, you have no chance,
yeah,
to say the least. So go somewhere where you have a legitimate chance, because the East is top heavy. We all know
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
The Heat, the Celtics, Philadelphia, and the Bucks. Those are four teams. You've got to worry about two of those teams instead of having to worry about eight teams in the West.
Yeah,
You know, it's a lot
yeah,
different.
absolutely, absolutely. And the last topic we'll cover before we let everybody get on to the rest of their evening is this year we had 5 of the top 10 prospects not be collegiate athletes. And I know you wanted
Mm-hmm.
to kind of go over this and talk about the transition we're starting to see where top prospects in the NBA or for the NBA are actually going to the G League first instead of going to college and then into the league. Obviously, the G League is there for the purpose of creating that buffer, but from what I'm seeing, I think this trend is going to continue and grow. So, what's your thoughts on that,
Hmm.
man? And its effect on
Look,
college basketball too.
it's got a big effect on college basketball because you're not going to see a whole lot of players start going to college to get into the NBA. Over the last 2 years, the G League has had a very high impact on this NBA draft. Like you said, 5 players this year went in the first 10 picks of the NBA draft.
Yeah,
Last year, it was Kaminga and a couple of other players as well. The NBA G League is producing some serious
yeah,
talent right now. And you know what I'm saying? And if they're getting the exposure of an NBA type organization right away to gain that experience. Where in college, you're getting a lot of one and dones, and a lot of these guys aren't getting a chance to experience some good competition
yeah.
there. And the G League's no pushover, and it shows, man. And it may start hurting college basketball a little bit because we touched on it. How much did Scott Henderson make
So,
in the G
Scott
League?
Henderson at the age of 17 signed a G League contract for $1 million. So, I mean, the money's there, and I think
Numbers talk.
the league is winning because for the NBA, they get to control how these athletes are exposed. They get to put them
Hmm.
on NBA TV on in between time and make sure that they get the exposure needed going into the draft. So it's just further promoting their game, and it gives them quote unquote league control over these prospects. And I think that's kind of what the NBA, the NBA, we talked about earlier. NBA doesn't have some direct, line with the NCAA, right? They're two different organizations that
Yeah,
don't work together, which I think is stupid. But either way, whatever. The NBA is like, okay, cool. Well, guys, we're gonna say guys have to go to college, and it's almost like they pulled the old cover over their head because on one hand the league said, yeah, you got to go to college for 1 year before, or, do something for 1 year before you can play in the league. And then they
yeah.
turn around and they open the G League and they say, yeah, you can play in the G League for a year, and you could go into the draft after that. And so I think the NCAA kind of got duped. Like kind of like, yeah, well, that's cool, but we don't really care. We just don't want them to play overseas. If it's a prospect, we want eyes on them. Like we would have preferred Damian Lillard not go to Weber State for 1 year. I would have preferred he just played in the G League, paid him $1 million, and put him on NBA TV for people to watch him play. I mean, this is all
Yeah.
for the good of the NBA. And so I think it's going to continue to be that way because there isn't anything that anyone or the NCAA can really do about it. I mean, once these guys get to that position where they can make decisions on their own, it's completely their decision. And before I jump over, I'm going to hand this off to you. Big ups to Brandon Jennings, who might be the pioneer of all of this. I don't know if you remember, but Brandon Jennings was a
Yeah.
huge prospect. And instead of going to college, because that rule was in place, he said, I don't have to play in college. I'm going to go play overseas. He played overseas, came back, and then after playing overseas, he was drafted. Now back then that was frowned upon, and because of that,
Hmm.
he was drafted a lot lower than he probably could have if he went to college. But that being said, that opened the door for a lot of guys to do the exact same thing because realistically, if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, you didn't have to go to college. You just had to play in the premier in your country's professional league. And so,
Look at LaMelo
yeah,
Ball.
he did the same thing.
LaMelo Ball left
Yep,
here and went to go play
yep,
Australia,
Lithuanian.
and,
Yep,
and turned into the number
that's
three
right. That's right.
overall pick
Yep.
to say. But yeah, Brandon Jennings was the pioneer that he said no college for me. And look, not a lot of college athletes are making NIL money.
Yeah.
We talked about it. Look, Bronny James is set to make $5.1 million in NILs,
Yeah.
right? But look, that's because of everything he's put in the work. I'm not
Yeah.
taking that
He's
from him.
LeBron's son.
He's an absolute. He's a good basketball player, but he's LeBron's
Yeah. I
son.
mean,
You know
come
what
on.
I'm
Yeah.
saying? So all that hype is going to come around to him. But imagine had he gone to the G
Oh
League.
man. Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
cow! Can you
Yeah.
imagine the money the NBA would have made off of Bronny James in the
Yeah.
G League?
No, absolutely.
He probably would have signed a $10 million contract in the
Yeah,
G
because
League.
then you get to see NBA level prospects play against each other. And now you do get some of that in college, but sometimes you don't because we're in different leagues. They're in different, they're in the SEC or the whatever, the Pac-12, whatever it is, are going to separate out some of these guys, and then we get to see everybody come together in March Madness, but we may not necessarily get to see this player against that player as far as matchup wise. But in the G League, you can, because they're all in the same league. Yep. You can say, oh, top prospect so and so versus Bronny James. We're gonna put it on NBA TV, and the bigger these prospects get, you'll start seeing some of those games like Victor Wembanyama's games sneak into ESPN or TNT. That stuff is going to start to happen, and I think the league knows that, and that's why they're doing this.
Can you imagine Victor Wembanyama in the G League as well?
Oh yeah,
he was already popular, right. And for him to even get in there, oh my God, that would have been off the charts.
We were literally watching him play in French teams on NBA TV. They were showcasing him playing in the French league, and so it's like if he was in a league where he was playing other NBA prospects, oh man, now all of a sudden when you go to the draft board, how can you pick a college kid whenever you just saw a prospect dominate against other grown men or NBA prospects and come out and win games or look fantastic doing it.
And just remember too, the G League is not all about guys coming out of high school.
No.
The G League is where guys who are draft picks and are already in the NBA go to get playing time.
Absolutely.
So these aren't like just washover players. These are guys who have already been in the NBA, but they need to get the playing time to stay fresh. They go to the G League. Yeah. James Wiseman spent a good amount of time in the G League. So did Kuminga. So did even Moody. Moody was in the G League there. Yeah. The NBA Summer League. You know what that is?
Yep.
That's a showcase of the G League right there.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah, Alex Caruso. It was a guy who played in the G League for a long time, starting with OKC and then the Lakers before he actually got a two-way contract with the Lakers and then getting on board with them. So you got guys fighting for their basketball lives out there. It's not just a college game where it's like, oh, young man, go to class, do that. No, these guys are basketball 24/7. So it's definitely a different environment. And I think, as we continue to go, man, I'm almost willing to say the top half, next 4 to 5 years, the top half of the draft is going to be prospects who are already playing in the G League.
It's going to make it so hard for college guys to get into the NBA if that's starting to become the trend. And you may see a decline in guys going to college to play. If they know their path is going to be easier in the G League, they're going to take that route instead of going to college, to say the least there. Yeah. You can still get hurt. That is bound to happen. It is a professional sport. But that exposure will start becoming a lot more to the G League than it will be to the NCAA.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, folks, I think we've come to the end here. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I know we were a little bit of a later start this time, but we still appreciate those who could join us. And we're going to everyone. Let everyone know again, if this is your first time seeing us, please feel free to subscribe to us. Go ahead and subscribe if you're watching. Go ahead and hit the like button on the video. That helps us out a lot as well. If you're a subscriber, hit that notification button. We appreciate it. And so we'll be locked and loaded for next week. I'm really excited about finally getting some football stuff going. I know we got to wait till we get to July and August, honestly, but we're almost there. And so we're going to have some craziness in the NBA, I'm pretty sure, next week. So we'll see.
No lie. Baseball's back. My team is a game and 2 games out from a first place in their own division. So baseball is about to turn into some big months here, so I'm looking forward to it. But man, just sports in general, you can't go wrong with it.
Let's do it.
All right,
y'all. Until next time.